Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels, and yes, we are doing another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. But first, brief disclaimer. For all the material we're going to be covering throughout the duration of Down the Rabbit Hole series, you're going to find all the links right there in the description box for you. Should you like to deep dive the subject on your own, you're definitely going to be able to do so. Trigger warning, this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. I do use profanity, and some of the topics that we cover on this channel can be particularly triggering. So if you got a child that is 16 and younger and they're watching this, parental supervision, very much advised, alright? Okay, so we are now getting to the person I told you we would eventually cover, and you would understand my just absolute, to be nice, extreme distaste for Miss Jenny McCarthy. And we're going to start with her timeline here in regards to anti-vaccination and her massive support for quack cures. So, let's begin, shall we? Alright, this is an AI overview. We are going to be going in more depth, but this is more of just an introduction right now. Alright, following her son's 2005 autism diagnosis, actress Jenny McCarthy became one of the most prominent promoters of the scientifically debunked claim that vaccines cause autism. Debunked means it's not true, people. I don't know who needs to hear this, but it's been disproven. Yes, it's been tested against placebos multiple times. Let me continue. Leveraging her celebrity status, she helped to amplify a movement that has been labeled dangerous and reckless by public health experts. And people who also work in healthcare, like my mom, for example. Just to name one. It's also been noticed with the heightened outbreaks of measles and all kinds of things that my aunt, who works in special ed out in Massachusetts, has to deal with. Just saying. 2005, son's autism diagnosis. McCarthy's son, Evan, was diagnosed with autism at 2.5 years old. She claimed the diagnosis followed a series of vaccinations, convincing her of a link between vaccines and autism. This notion is based on a fraudulent and now retracted 1998 study by British doctor Andrew Wakefield. This is why Google cannot give you a doctor's degree. You can research and find all kinds of crazy conspiracy theories on the web, but it doesn't make them true. And when you spread them around, because once you hear the conspiracy, you want to believe it, then you put other people in danger because of your own reckless stupidity. You may want to sacrifice your son to diseases that have at one point been almost eradicated, but I don't think other parents are going to feel quite the same way you do about it, Jenny. Particularly parents and grandparents who are old enough to remember iron lungs and polio epidemics. It's not just about the measles or the chicken pox. We're talking about diseases that are covered in that vaccine that used to wipe out civilizations. Full stop. Full stop. Don't get me started. 2007 goes public with her beliefs. McCarthy announced her son's autism diagnosis and her belief that it was vaccine-induced in her book, Louder Than Words, A Mother's Journey in Healing Autism on the Oprah Winfrey Show. The way that just makes me cringe internally and want me to just, throw shit. You don't know. During her Oprah appearance, her anecdotal narrative influenced thousands of parents, giving a large platform to the anti-vaccine movement. Observations are important, true. Observations as done by doctors who spent years inside medical schools is infinitely more well informed. To have the arrogance to say that you know more than the doctor when it comes to public health, and your main frame of information is in a debunked paper and internet conspiracy theories, and you're influencing other people to go down the same crazy train that you have, we're gonna have a problem. And it's already building. She became a person for the Anti-Vaccine organization Talk About Curing Autism, or TACA. One of the groups, by the way, that ASAN and us individual self-advocates have been at the throats of TACA, and TACA has been at our throats for at least 2 decades, if not a little bit longer. 2008 promotes pseudoscientific treatments. McCarthy claimed that she had cured her son's autism using unproven and potentially dangerous remedies like chelation therapy. Chelation therapy is a therapy that is meant to remove heavy metals from the body when you have metal poisoning. My autism was not caused by no goddamn metal poisoning. It is hereditary. And I have more than enough evidence. Both sides of my family show traits of being neurodivergent. Both sides have neurodivergent members. I got double whammied. And my little nephew is also autistic. And I have some thoughts that my eldest brother might be as well. Possibly. He's some kind of neurodivergent. I'm just saying. He's too much like us misfits. You know? I say that with love. I like being a misfit. I don't even want to pretend to try to be normal these days. But I am in my pseudo-autistic bubble. No, I don't have to. Chelation therapy can be very, very, very dangerous because the fact of the matter is there are some metals in the human body that the human body actually needs, such as zinc and magnesium. Just for an example, you need a healthy amount of that for your human body to be able to function at its best capacity. Believe me, I know, I've looked into it. And I've talked to actual experts, not Google. In fact, it was my doctor who suggested that I had been very severely depleted amount of iron and magnesium and zinc and wanted me to start taking those supplements. So no, they didn't cause my autism. The fact that I actually am extremely depleted in necessary metals should tell you that, yeah, no, they're not causing autism. They didn't poison me. They're concerned I don't have enough of them in my system. Because your body, your brainwaves run on magnesium, your ability to, go number 2 in the bathroom also helps to have magnesium in your system. Iron for your heart, for your blood, for circulation. Zinc as well. I mean, we're not dealing with people who are dealing with reality here. That's all I'm trying to say. The National Institute of Mental Health has since rejected the underlying rationale of chelation therapy for autism, noting the lack of benefit and risk of cardiac arrest of stroke. And that's not a kidding. Chelation therapy is no goddamn joke. It can hurt you, particularly when you don't have heavy metal poisoning. There are certain metals that are supposed to be in our bloodstream and in our bodies. Using a drug like that could put you at all kinds of risk. Who knows how many things could go wrong? Are you really so gung-ho to blame vaccines that you're willing to risk your kid's life just so you can get that perfect neurotypical child that you imagined in your head? Then you don't have any right to be a damn parent. Sorry, not sorry. 2013 to 2014, moves to The View and faces backlash. When McCarthy was hired as a co-host for the daytime talk show The View, it drew heavy criticism from medical professionals, science journalists, and public health organizations. It also drew plenty of ire from the neurodivergent movement and the disability rights movement. To say we were pissed was an understatement. Toronto Public Health officially denounced the appointment and launched a Twitter campaign to have her removed, citing the danger of giving McCarthy a platform for her misinformation. McCarthy and her co-host Barbara Walters reportedly clashed over her vaccine stance. Her time on the show was short-lived, lasting only one season. Even Barbara Walters can only handle stupid for so long. 2014 present claims pro-safe vaccine stance while critics cite past remarks. Oh my God, is she trying to backpedal? Amid backlash, McCarthy began attempting to reframe her position by insisting she is not anti-vaccine, but rather pro-safe vaccine and in favor of a delayed vaccine schedule. Here we go again. But if you just space them out, it's going to be safer. It'll get time to get the metals out. Honey, I am suffering from metal depletion and have ever since I was a little girl. Not too much of it in my blood, not enough of it. Please, for the love of God, shut up. It is not the vaccines. But it's the metals going into young bodies, and I have an extreme low amount of needed metals in my body and literally have to take supplements and even tinctures to make sure that I get the right amount into my system so I can function properly. So, with that being the case, how could that have caused me to be autistic? Make it make sense. But you gotta they are safe. They're not poisoning anyone. And I'm not the only autistic out there in the world, I'm sure, that has a similar health issue because we're all human beings and some of us suffer from that deprivation. So, with that being a fact, please explain to me what the hell I was so-called poisoned from. Because it's not poison, it's hereditary. The traits are very strong on both sides. I have neurodivergent family members on both sides. It's hereditary with some environmental factors. Now, would I like some answers as to the regards to how it presents itself and why there is so much variety within it? Of course I am. I'm a nerd, and it's one of my fascinations and hyper-focuses. But I'm going to wait until we get new research from actual experts. I don't get health advice from celebrities. I get it from doctors, from scientists. Okay? But they're not the end-all be-all. Maybe not, but they sure as hell know a lot more about it than me and you. And I'm going to trust them who have spent years inside medical school over my ability to use a Google search engine. I'm just saying. Medical experts and public health officials reject delaying vaccines, explaining that it leaves children vulnerable to preventable diseases, especially when they're young. Especially when they're young. That is when we are at our most vulnerable and most susceptible to diseases. Remember COVID when they were worried about most elderly, infants, and disabled? Do you wonder why that is? Because those groups were the most vulnerable during the time. Point blank. We just were. Her attempts to rebrand her position have not erased her past rhetoric. It doesn't even change her rhetoric. It's still the same rhetoric. It is still anti-vaccine. And it is anti-truth. Because they are safe. They have been studied. They have been tested against placebos. For example, a 2015 Frontline interview showed her expressing that parents of children with autism would sign up for measles over their child having autism. But you know what they wouldn't sign up for, honey? They wouldn't sign up for polio. They wouldn't sign up for whooping cough. They wouldn't sign up for smallpox. Because the MMR vaccine is not just for the fucking measles. Some of the diseases covered in that vaccine used to wipe out full-ass civilizations. Don't believe me? Pick up a history book sometime. Okay? Smallpox wiped out an insane amount of Native Americans when it was brought over by the people coming from Europe and from Britain. It decimated their population. That is a historical fact. Do I want my kids to have measles or autism? Well, let me ask you this, Jenny. Would you rather your kid have polio or be autistic? Would you prefer your kid to die from whooping cough or be autistic? Would you rather your child die from smallpox and infect others and cause a great big amount of trouble than them being autistic? Because every time us autistics hear that I would rather my kid have one of these diseases other than being autistic, what we are hearing you say is, I would rather my child be dead than autistic. That is what we hear. I am not the only one who has stated that opinion. That has been the opinion of the vast majority of us for decades. For decades. When you say stupid shit like this, you choose measles because it seems the most harmless, right? To soften the blow. But you can't forget the MMR covers more than just one disease. We're going to give you a quick little crash course real fast. Measles, mumps, rubella. So, there are complications that come from mumps. You know, it's harmless, right? Otitis can come from it, which is an inflammation of the testicles, which can lead to pain, swelling, and temporary infertility. Or phoritis, inflammation of the ovaries in females, which can cause pain and abdominal discomfort. Pancreatitis, inflammation of the pancreas, which can cause severe abdominal pain, nausea, and vomiting. Many people have died from that disease, by the way. Jenny. Encephalitis, inflammation of the brain, which can cause seizures, paralysis, and even death. Meningitis, inflammation of the membranes covering the brain and spinal cord, which can cause severe headache, stiff neck, and fever. It can even cause deafness. Hearing loss can occur in rare cases. Risk factors are age, pregnancy, or immunosuppression. Prevention is through vaccination with the MMR. Now, rubella can be extremely dangerous if a person who is not immune gets infected during pregnancy. The most significant danger is to the unborn baby, who can develop severe and lifelong birth defects known as congenital rubella syndrome, or CRS. Infection during the first trimester poses the greatest risk to a fetus, with up to 90% chance of developing CRS. Potential outcomes of a rubella infection during pregnancy include miscarriage or stillbirth, severe congenital defects, heart defects, deafness and blindness, intellectual disabilities, premature birth, liver and spleen damage. For most people who are not pregnant, rubella is a relatively mild illness with symptoms that usually last only a few days. Many people, especially children, may not even have noticeable symptoms. However, even in non-pregnant individuals, there are potential complications. For adults, complications are rare but more common in adults than children. Women can experience painful temporary arthritis in their fingers, wrists, and knees. Rubella can lead to more serious issues like brain infections or bleeding problems, which require urgent medical attention. Just wanted to show you that real quick. Before we go ahead and close out, we are going to be covering the consequences as well as continuing to deep dive into McCarthy and what my obvious issue with her is. But before we do, we're going to go ahead and close out for this one, and we'll come back with more next Saturday. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few we do have do tend to get removed from time to time, so don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe. Please don't forget to hit the comments, and please make sure you're still set up for notifications. We're going to be coming back tomorrow with our third episode of the Snake Oil Salesman series. We don't want you to miss anything. I do appreciate your time, and as always, we here at Spilling Tea absolutely do. Hope you have a good one. I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye, everyone.